This is Sunday, the 2nd of October, here in America. Greetings, citizens of Zimbabwe. I was just about to go, to a church um, here in America, and I thought, let me just, record this idea that had come into my mind because somebody said, ideas are like fish. If you don't catch it, then you'll never catch it. So I want to thank Tendai BT, Honorable, and people like Vincent Musewe that are offering this idea of the National Transitional Agency. The most powerful tool that we have is ideas. And the next powerful tool is an individual that has a passion to see change. Obviously, Honorable BT has this passion amongst many other people. So we have something. Originally, I was not interested in the ATA, but I think an idea struck me, and as I have had conversations with Vincent Musewe, we came to an agreement. I began to see it in a different way. And I'm thinking, he really said, look, it's time to offer other ideas, alternative ideas that can be, that can then be considered. And, certainly John Maxwell once said, you're not the best creator until your idea has been tabled. And I want to say to you, my dear Zimbabweans, one of the biggest problems that we have is a sense of agency. And knowing, creating an organization or task force is one of the most difficult things. You know how long it took for the opposition parties to kind of form some form of unity, which really never came, to full fruition. And maybe it was derailed by this flag movement in a way. But I want to say the idea that came to me was that, sometimes you need an ad hoc task force. You need an adhocracy. An adhocracy is a task force that is formed very quickly to gather all the fallout from the bureaucracies, let's say the opposition, ZANU-PF, and the churches and the system, and create a way forward. And certainly, the Bible says, without a vision, people perish. We need to come to that platform, that place where we all have a vision that we see for our country that will take us from where we are to where we need to be. And I think that should be the first start. And then when we have the vision, then we can look at the components of that vision that we want to look at. And I think if we agree that there's a need for revitalization in our country, there's a need to reimagine or reinvent or re-entrepreneur or re-engineer our country, and it's good to use transformative words as well. If you want to change the mindsets of people, you use transformative words, re-engineer, re-entrepreneur, and so forth and so forth. And so I think that we should form what I want to call a royal council that is composed of the leaders of the opposition parties, leaders of the church, leaders of the civic groups, and some individuals that have ideas, creative ideas for us to move ahead. And the purpose is to define a vision and a concept of intent to drive our nation forward, and realizing that we need to create a change, a transformative change. And I think one way to do it is to come up with this, what I call the Zimbabwe Transformational project. When I say transformational, I mean that we need to move from the old to the new and end up with a completely new but powerful 10 times, 20 times multiple factor growth for our nation in every area. And so this project would have three phases. The first phase is the revolutionary phase. The revolution. What are we going to do about the transfer of power? When are we going to do it? What can we do? And then the next thing is the transition. This is where the NTA part can come in the transition part phase. What can the NTA do? How can we use the NTA in the transition phase? And then we have the third phase, the democratic phase. What kind of democracy do we need? What kind of system do we need? What kind of political system? What kind of economic system? What kind of social system? What are the architectures? When we have that in hand and we have solutions, then we can determine when the elections are going to be. And in the transition phase, through this project, we give that as a project to the NTA to find out what kind of systems to put together, all these systems and the timing of this transition. And I think if we look at the project, because a project, that it has expected results, and there's a monitoring and a controlling approach to it, and then we are sure of what product we want, and we know how to control the product that we want, and we know how to create the project that we want, and we know how to